to see everyone again and connect with folks. So I'm glad you are here, taking a few moments away with me. There are a lot of updates. I'm going to run through these really, really quickly. Um, and if you need any sort of follow-up conversation or have any follow-up questions, feel free to let me know. So first things first, obviously, we're still talking about all things student life this morning. And so I always like to do just a quick check-in with everybody. I know this is a stressful time of year, especially, some of you haven't had fall break yet. Some of you have already had it. Some of you are in the midst of sort of heavy programming season. So I hope everyone is doing well in their respective corners of the world. And if not, feel free to call me and vent. That's fine. Hopefully, I have some good news to share, as well as potentially some not so good news. So let's run through it. I always like to start with a sort of a quick fact that's sort of related to all things going on in our system. So today's trivia question is, whoa, I gave you an answer. What was the cost of tuition per credit hour about 25 years ago? And if you were staring at the screen, you already saw the answer. The answer was B, 2675 in the year 19 or in the fall of 1999. And this is significant for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, you can see how quickly our tuition has increased over time. But two, this year's state budget did not call for an increase in our tuition, so we are still locked at the $76 per credit hour, and we haven't had a tuition increase since the 2015-2016 academic year, when it went from $72 to $76. So I can imagine, with the changes in Pell that are coming up this fall, the impact of enrollment being somewhat down across our system. There have been some conversations, of course, about this in terms of increasing tuition and so forth. However, all of that has to come through, state board and General Assembly approval, and that, it's only been just conversations and questions, not necessarily any action moving forward. And of course, that's as of today. Who knows what's on the horizon for next academic year, but right now we're still locked in to the $76 per credit hour for the foreseeable future. So today's random trivia question. So a number of updates, some internal, some external. I always like to start with this one. I keep updating our the calendar of events that I find in conferences, and so if you haven't bookmarked that Bitly link, please make sure you do so, in case you're curious as to, state, national, DEI, and system office related professional development. Next, so a number of these are sort of state board issues. So if you go to ncommunitycolleges.edu, and at the top, click on state board, and then click on Friday, October 20th, which is our sort of current state board meeting. You'll see a number of state board items that are sort of relevant to a number of institutions in our system. Obviously, this one's a pretty big one. So 47 institutions have been allocated additional funding to continue closing the rural broadband gap and sort of access to network infrastructure, not only for sort of the campus surrounding areas, things of that nature. So, there are a number of colleges that are, expanding the Wi-Fi capability on campus, upgrading routers, working with the local IT provider to provide, networking capabilities in communities and our rural areas. And so that's something that I imagine, those who are sort of on the outskirts of our state are always impacted with connectivity. And so that was approved in our recent state budget. And so if you're curious as to how much your college is receiving and all sort of the nitty gritty details, you can chime in by looking at the state board item. But obviously, it's an ongoing project. Our state is really committed to connectivity across all of our rural areas in North Carolina to try to get broadband to every citizen, I imagine, in our state. So the big elephant in the room is the state budget. So the state budget packet for community colleges is in discussion for approval for our state board this Friday. In it had, if you're curious, it's the state board website. If you go to the finance tab, it's item number 6. It should say college allocations and state budget. It's about a couple of 100 pages long. It has every basic allocation to your institution, president salaries, curriculum, Con Ed, budget allocations, childcare, all of those things are there for you to review. Obviously, the biggest thing that probably directly impacts you is the state increases for employees, and so those are going to be retroactive to July 1. So if you were a state employee since July 1, they're going to pay you or back pay you your state bonus since then, and it should be included in your October paycheck. At least that's how it's being done here at the system office. And so I'm assuming the state board is not going. I mean, obviously, it's more than likely this is just going to be a stamp for approval and pushed through. And so, you can expect to at least have a slight salary bump or salary increase to, maybe do some Christmas shopping or do some saving for yourself. But the whole budget package, I mean, it's really interesting if you're curious as to how much your institution is receiving on the curriculum, Con Ed, basic skills side. You can sort of see all those details. And, I often say this is an opportunity to have conversations and questions with different sides of the house. And so if, I use every budget opportunity to talk about ways to partner and collaborate with different sides of your campus or organization. So, again, I like to use all of these things sort of strategically. So, for example, at UNC Wilmington just hosted an adult learner reach initiative, in which is mostly driven on the CCR or college and career readiness side of the house. But those colleges are looking for ways to provide additional engagement to encourage those students to transition from CCR into a curriculum program. And often that is either done through, some sort of advising relationship, engaging in events and activities, whatever the case may be. And so it's just, again, just an opportunity to, maybe host an onboarding event or, just a welcome fair or something fun in the college and career readiness, basic skills, ESL side of your world or your campus, as opposed to always doing it in a high traffic curriculum area. And so just be mindful that, folks are more cognizant about money and programming and all these other things, because obviously they've been given the blueprint of their state budget here once it's approved this Friday. You may not have received this, but it's on our system website, so I did want to highlight it. So the future FBLA is headed up here in North Carolina by Dan Hazlitt at Stanley. A number of students won awards earlier this academic year, and also a student at Stanley has been nominated the national chapter president for FBLA. So we definitely want to give props and shout out to them. A number of institutions on this call are recognized as outstanding chapters, not only both here in North Carolina, but on the national level as well. So I did want to highlight that as well. There tends to be 5 to 6 major organizations in North Carolina that our community colleges are often engaged with. Obviously, PTK is one, FBLA is another, NSLS is one, National Technical Honor Society and Skills USA are typically the top 5. And so if you are on a campus that, doesn't have one of those organizations, it may be worth having a conversation with folks either on the academic side or student services side of the house to see if there's interest in starting a chapter in one of those areas. And so I did want to highlight FBLA. They also have sort of a high school component to that as well. So it's often a great experience for those who have early and middle college students, because there are both high school and collegiate events that students can engage in, which also, of course, are great extracurricular or co-curricular experiences, but then also tie into the academic realm as well. So great work for those who are engaged with FBLA. All the hard work that they do and the great programming and opportunities that they offer for our students. So I also wanted to highlight an upcoming conference. I know some folks are traveling and have the money to spend. The National Conference on Student Leadership is always in Orlando, Florida. It's usually sort of mid-November. Obviously this year it's I believe the weekend before most of our campuses depart or close for the Thanksgiving holiday. But I know that there are a number of colleges that have attended this event and they rave about it every time they go. Obviously, the cost is sometimes prohibitive for some of our institutions with smaller budgets. But from what I hear, it is an amazing experience if you, as a professional, can go, or obviously, I think the goal is to take a student leader or two if you have the budget to do so. The website's there. You can also Google it. But we also have, I know Barb has presented, I think one or two other of our advisors have also presented at this conference, and they could potentially give you feedback on, their experience, both either as a presenter or as an attendee. We've been contacted by a number of vendors. So these next couple of slides are about vendors that I can potentially either connect with you or you can connect with and send a whole host of information. I have packets of information from each of these vendors, but the first is a program that's really focused on resilience, mindfulness, wellness training, etc. Sometimes campuses purchase this sort of set of programming options where they have like once a week for 8 weeks they bring in a wellness instructor to do some activities on campus, whether it's yoga, meditated breathing, other sort of mental well-being types of not only active activities but also classroom instruction as well. Ms. Rand, she sent me some information that we'll be distributing here to our student VPs. Obviously, I'll CC you on it. If you're curious about sort of their initiative and what they do, their website is there at the bottom. It has some sort of introductory videos and of how they partner with, four-year institutions, community organizations, as well as community colleges. The next one is a really interesting one. It's with the National Fitness Campaign. So the National Fitness Campaign is a long-standing organization, and they are seeking like 2 or 3 partners to build this fitness court that you see here at the bottom as like an outdoor fitness, not only classroom, but I guess could be used for community, your students, your community. They also have a number of colleges that use it for like their BLET or public safety training. And so all of the activities you can do are core activities: squats, push-ups, lunges, pull-ups, agilities, bending, things of that nature. They have sort of a structured, exercise curriculum, if you will, for students to engage in once the court is built. They are offering $30,000 grants in order to help pay for the construction of the outdoor courts. However, the court itself is quite pricey. So I believe the court is roughly like 140, like she quoted like 120 to 140 with a $30,000 discount. And so, depending on, I know many of our institutions on the call have athletics and, are maybe seeking or maybe paying for community resources for these types of either indoor or outdoor experiences or venues. And so if you are potentially interested in wanting to learn more about it, Ms. Bird is our contact here in North Carolina or in this region. Again, I have a longer presentation, and the video at the bottom will give you more information about how colleges use this court, not only for both academic instruction, but then also just fitness, wellness, and engagement on the side. All right. Yeah. Continuing moving. So we are a few days closer to our conference, SGA conference at Rocky Mount. And we're excited to have folks sign up and attend. If you have not received an electronic invoice to pay online and you need to receive one, just make sure whenever you submit your registration, you copy my personal email and just let me know how many people are attending if you don't attach the registration form, just so I can go in and do it on the side. I've been trying to catch up just to make sure that I send all of those to the proper email address with the proper amounts. A couple of housekeeping notes. So we'll start with the fun stuff, and then we'll end with the not so fun stuff. So on Saturday and Sunday of our fall conference, Wilson, North Carolina is hosting the National Whirligig Festival. And so if you don't know what a whirligig is, it's those huge lawn metal structures that could be they move, they could move with the wind, or they could be animals, or Eiffel Tower, or whatever the case may be. So we are trying to not only work with our agenda to make sure that we get all of our things done that we need for conference, but then also give colleges time to go visit and go see some of the vendors and food trucks at the Whirligig Festival. So if you don't know how to spell whirligig, I didn't when it came up. It's WHIRLIGIG. So if you just type in Whirligig Festival, it's the first thing that pops up, Wilson, North Carolina. It's definitely a unique, it's one of those like the Okra Festival or the Strawberry Festival that are in, we'll give you some local flavor to Wilson, North Carolina and the Rocky Mount region. I thought that was fun. Let's talk about some of the bad stuff or not so positive stuff. And part of these are a question, so we'll definitely dive into what happens now. So now that the state budget is passed, essentially, or in effect, that potentially could remove your student trustee from the state board. And so part of the conversation I want to have in a few moments is, did your student attend their October Board of Trustees meeting? And, if so, what did, the president of the trustees say? What has your college determined in terms of allowing the student to remain on the board? That sort of thing. And so I sent some communications to our trustees association here, Alex here at the system office, to see what type of note or clarification, or ultimately, what is the system office going to say about this issue, if anything? And so I think there are some internal discussions as to what is probably the most appropriate way to handle this issue. Obviously, it's highly contentious, not from the student aspect, but because the structure of our Board of Trustees is changing. So instead of 4 coming from the school board, 4 coming from the county commissioners, and 4 coming from the governor, it's changing now to 8 are coming from General Assembly appointees and then 4 are coming from the county commissioner. So they're removing the local school board trustees as well as the governor's trustees. And so obviously it's highly politicized, given sort of the supermajority and then the Democratic governor and all the things that go in between all of that stuff. And sort of the student issue is sort of caught in the crossfire here. So I definitely want to have some more conversations about what happens with students. And so the one question that we did have here is, what do you think you need in order to work with your college to ensure that the student is given an opportunity to remain on the board? Do you need a sort of a letter template that you can submit to your board chair? Do you need a presentation that the student that we can create or provide, that your student can sort of add your local information into it to sort of advocate on their, on to their board at their college? Really, I just want you to think about what you need sort of in this instance, if anything. Or if at some colleges, if there's no change, it hasn't even been an issue, then maybe you just don't mention it and ruffle the feathers. But I imagine there's going to be more and more conversation happening about it as our trustee members roll on and roll off. If you're not coming to the SGA conference, there's another conference going on the same weekend. This one's at NC State. And it's the CSNAP conference in conjunction. So CSNAP is out of, well, I won't say it's out of, it's the executive director works at Elon University, Miss Leslie Garvin. They used to be Campus Compact. They changed their name. I'm sure some of you may remember Campus Compact. So they're having a conference at NC State. It's 2 days. You can just Google NC Campus Compact. It'll take you directly to their website if you're curious about their agenda and what they're doing. Obviously, this conference is focused around, of course, citizenship, service, networking, partnerships, things of that nature. So they typically have a number of 4-year and 2-year, 4-year public and private and 2-year institutions attend this conference. And so, again, if you're looking for another place to travel, if you're not coming to Rocky Mount, here may be an opportunity for you to take your students for some type of engagement. All right. Man. So I think I have maybe one or two more. So many of you also know that in this year's budget, or in this year's legislation, the state passed, the DEI legislation, saying that, colleges can't engage in certain DEI topics or advocate for certain messaging as a required faculty and staff training and professional development. So our DEI office here in the Student Success Center is hosting a bunch of information sessions specifically around this legislation. And so I believe, so Keisha Jones, she is our diversity DEI liaison here with the Student Success Center. She's also the Dean of Student Services at Davis and Davie. They are hosting about 10 to 15 small group sessions about this topic specifically. So if you go to the workshop tab, I believe if you click on DEI or upcoming workshops, it's listed, and then you can sign up there. They've already submitted questions to our campuses regarding what questions do you have about this. So one of the questions I asked, for example, was, can a college still offer safe zone training, right? Because, and can it be required? The legislation doesn't speak to students at all, right? So I think students teaching students other things seems to be okay, right? Or protected, at least as of our interpretation. What seems to be a little bit more gray is what types of topics professionals can or cannot offer to other faculty and staff in a required format or even in a voluntary format. And so if you have any questions about it, there should be, your dean or VP should have received this link saying, please submit your questions. If you give me a moment, I can maybe put it in the chat here if I can find it. If you have any questions about, what types of topics and things that, can be discussed on campus. This also goes to things like bringing in outside speakers or presenters or all those types of things. And so if you have maybe questions surrounding that, if you have a speaker series that sometimes is, highly contentious, or, the topics are sort of, in the red zone right now, then, make sure you submit those questions just so that we can answer them, not only for you, but then share those answers to folks in our system. But please take advantage of those trainings just so that you yourself, as one of the main programmers on campus, can, feel comfortable in what you are doing and what you're providing. Whew. All right. Any questions before I jump ahead to some of the questions that I received? No questions? All right. So my first question that I received was, now that the budget has passed, did your student trustee attend their Board of Trustees meeting in October and or November? And so I'll pause to see if anyone had a negative change, or if everyone experienced it's just been business as before.
Hi, this is Dawn from College of the Albemarle. I just want to jump in. There has not been a change. As soon as they started talking about this, we met. When the bill came in effect, we met with the president, and then the president actually went to the Board of Trustees, and they said absolutely not. Basically their things is, this is why we're a college. It's about the students, and we want to hear their voice and make sure that they're being heard. So there is no change here at College of the Albemarle.
Tiffany Scobie, Piedmont Community College. JJ, could we, or could N4C do a poll of colleges and see how many SGA presidents are being allowed to go to their meetings, and then those who are not?
Oh, I am smiling so hard because you have no idea how much that question has already gotten me in trouble. But that has definitely been a discussion here internally. I'm going to answer your question in two ways. So yes, N4C absolutely has the right to interview or send out a poll asking for a response. Now the question is who the response comes from. So if the response is coming from SGA, then I think that's okay. It's fine. If we're asking the response to come officially from the board chair or the trustees organization at the local college, that's where it gets a little more heavily politicized. And so I'm still trying to convince the powers that be internally to have that formally documented. So let's talk about formal documentation. For the colleges that have no change, here's my question. Is it no change and that has been voted upon and therefore it's in the record? Or it's no change and it hasn't been discussed, hasn't been voted on, and we are just acting as if the legislation hasn't passed? Because I think that for safety, I guess to CYA, I may want it officially decided upon or decreed or a vote or something sort of officially saying, all right, here's where it's documented on this date that we're still allowing our student to stay on our board, versus we're just going to operate as normal and it not be sort of written on some document in some minute somewhere. So, that's part of the documentation I wanted to have as it relates to this. But then also, I think as an organization, we'll do something surrounding this topic, whether it's informal poll or whether we get the trustees association to send it and they, have a response where, I keep a spreadsheet or someone has a running spreadsheet of where the student is or is not allowed. I think so. There's sort of a number of schools of thought on this. So it's one of those things where, like, if we make it a big deal, then it becomes a big deal. Then, are we just waking a sleeping giant by asking a whole bunch of questions and then trying to get every college to formally respond versus, do we just allow each college to, make their decision and determination locally, and therefore, we just try to gather the information a different way just to see if there's anyone who's been asked not to attend and then deal with them sort of on a one-on-one basis. So obviously, like I said, it's a highly contentious issue on a whole number of other aspects. But again, the students are sort of stuck in this gray space, and we're going to deal with it as best as possible. Anybody else want to chime in? Anybody other questions about that one?
I do have a question.
Sure.
I have a question about the state board position for N4C. So we get to keep that one, correct? And is that
Yes.
codified in the state budget as well?
Yep.
Awesome.
That it is still in the state board code. His position is still firmly written in the language.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So next question came up actually this morning. So I decided to put it up as a question to see how other folks have handled it. And that is this one. If you're traveling with somewhere and you don't have a P card and the hotel and venue doesn't allow you to pay by check, what do you do? Anybody want to talk about what they do in this aspect?
JJ, I don't think we've run into a problem with that with any of the hotels, have we?
It came up this morning. So this is why I'm asking a question to see how other folks handle this one.
Okay, I'm gonna share because I'm
I was trying to say.
So I have a P card, but my P card is strictly the president has approved. When we go out, we can use it for food. It is not strictly for hotels or anything like that. I know there's other colleges, I won't put them on the spot, just dealing with them from last year being on the N4C SGA that has to pay with check. And that was one of my things as JJ has taken over this year is making sure that these hotels will accept a check. Well, there's a hotel on the spreadsheet that JJ did talk to and was like, yeah, good. Well, I received an email this morning after I have booked my hotel rooms, turned it into the business department, and now I get an email this morning stating, oh, can't get a check. So I'm in the middle of trying to deal with the general manager, or I have to cancel my hotel rooms and try to find somewhere else to go that will accept a check, or I go and see if I can write up a letter with the director of the business department and see if I have enough time for even the president to look at it and see if he'll even approve my P card. And in the past, it has always been not approved. So that is what's going on. So that's where the question came up this morning.
Yeah. And I know, having served in a role. So when I first started at Alamance, I had a pretty locked down P card and couldn't make a number of transactions on it. So I know that there are levels of absolute freedom that you can purchase anything as long as you don't purchase anything crazy to you have to get a purchaser signature to purchase a pack of bubble gum in the bookstore, right? I know that there's a wide variety in how colleges view P cards, especially when it relates to traveling and expenses. And so I guess I hope, so I'm going to say something that I hope doesn't happen. I hope that in this instance, Dawn wouldn't have to put this on her personal credit card. So I hope that there are no, right. I hope there are no institutions requiring people to put hotel room reservations on their personal credit card when they're traveling for students, or make some of those arrangements in order to reimburse. To be reimbursed. And if there are, or if you are in one of these circumstances, please let me know so we can have a conversation with your dean, VP, or business office to try to help mitigate some of those issues for you. But I do know that there is a large disparity on how freely student life folks can use their purchasing card if they have one. So I just don't want to make sure that I just want to make sure that no significant financial burden is being placed on you as the professional in this role trying to execute your job or your requirement. So I did want to definitely say that and have that conversation. And we've had conversations like that in the past, and oftentimes that's also colleges are sort of we do it this way versus they do it their way. But sometimes if you can get CFOs or business office to business office conversations to say, I think it's often a CYA for them. And so if you can provide maybe a structure or a handbook from another college that has a little more liberal stance on purchasing and credit cards and things of that nature, oftentimes that has helped change the environment locally. And so if you need us to help sort of facilitate those types of conversation, please let us know.
Thank you, Dr. Evans.
All right. So I think this is my last slide for today. There are a number of awareness type of events in November. And so I'm curious if anyone wanted to share, if you all have any sort of unique programming ideas or events surrounding any of these, or any topics that you may have sort of, or traditions that you have on your own. I'll pause here to see if anybody wants to share what they're doing in November for their families or their colleges.
JJ, this is Tonda. We had an event this past Saturday to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. The Hispanic students here on campus, they had vendors and they had their costumes and they had presentations, and it was just a good day, all day Saturday of this past week that we celebrated that. And we are going to observe our veterans on the Thursday before Veterans Day. We always have a gathering where we have coffee and croissants, just something to recognize our veterans for Veterans Day. So James Bryan is doing a little something for those events.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share? You are never this quiet, I swear. Well, let me ask a more direct question. I know in years past, some SGAs used to sponsor families for like turkey or Thanksgiving meal. Are any colleges still doing anything of that nature, or working with their food pantry locally to either stock it or do a food drive or any of that type of stuff? No.
Hey, it's Heather from Fayable Tech. We have several of our clubs and organizations who are doing food drives from now until, of course, the end of November. We do, at Thanksgiving time, we do kind of like box dinners from the food pantry, because donations seem to, increase during that time. So that's what we're doing. And then our collegiate recovery program room that is grant funded, partnered with Meredith, they're going to do like a Friendsgiving meal for students. So they're planning on cooking and serving students.
So at College of the Albemarle, we are doing Stuff the COA van at all 4 campuses. And what that is we have it's called COA Cares. And it's like a career closet, but it also has food, it has toothbrushes, it has all kinds of stuff that students would need. And so what we do every November is we stuff the COA van, and they, have it stuffed up, and then we put it in our COA closets, COA Care closets on all campuses. So that way we have it for students. It could be school supplies, it could be anything that, a college student would need. So we have that in November.
While we're still in October, something that I just really thought of, in North Carolina, October is College Application Month, or Countdown to College, I think is the official designation. And I believe it's next week when a number of these college applications are free. Are any of you partnering with like your university transfer department? Is it this week or is it next week? It's this week.
It's this week.
This week.
We're doing applications, this week actually at all 4 campuses. So we have a big thing, a big event here where students can come. We'll help them fill out the applications, get it all done, and they'll send it out to the students. And we actually have, like myself, I'm going to ECU, so we're going to one. We have an access program, which is transfer program, where we go and take students that may not be able to go. We take them students to do a tour. So this Friday, I'm taking some students to ECU, November UNCW, and then in December, we're going to go to NC State.
That's awesome. All of those are great collaborative ideas, right? Obviously, you often have the vans and the know-how to drive the vans and access to students who are seeking opportunities to be exposed to some of these campuses. It's funny, I used to work at ACC, and students would have gone to Franklin Street, but have never walked in an academic building at UNC Chapel Hill. That always amazed me. And so making sure that we're, taking students to campus tours, even if they seem close in proximity to your institution. I often found that students were often apprehensive to go explore an institution and walk around campus. And so, you sort of providing that opportunity, creating that safe space, and then building a community of individuals to goes a long way in helping students feel more comfortable exploring, transferring, especially to some of our larger, more, we'll say, highly selective institutions. I'll say it that way. All right. I think that's it for me. As always, I'd like to end by saying thank you for everything that you do for our students. I'm here to answer any questions. Feel free to shoot me an email. Most of you all have my cell phone. If you don't, I'll throw it in the chat just to be, just in case you do not, so you know how to get a hold of me. Thank you for, I know if no one says thank you for the late night shopping or leaving your office at 5 o'clock to go pick up something for a program the next morning that you forgot, or waking up at 6 to go grab donuts for a coffee and donut thing. Thank you for all those sort of off the clock hours that you put in to try to give our students or create a campus environment that is welcoming and belonging. So with that, I'll sort of end the official recording, and I'll stay here if there are any